Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As human beings, we are very private and very, very concealed. And this is by default our human state. The problem is that not only do we have to lead a life of pretense in order to comply with what is acceptable, but our true selves are so unbearable by us that we are hidden to our own selves. And this then, at the very depth of ourselves, does not allow us to journey to God. Now, devotion needs transparency, brutal honesty. It needs that firm resolve to journey from within. And the first thing it requires is this openness and acknowledgement of what I am at the depth of myself. Now, devotion makes this very easy because God, in the spiritual literature, as with certain verses of the Quran, is seen as that intimate companion with whom we can share without feeling a sense of embarrassment or shame. You see, even in our most intimate devotions to God, there is a sense of embarrassment from God. And that sense of embarrassment forms a veil from the true self yielding to God. It is only at those times when we find a true friend that we can then share with them openly. And the amazing thing is that what we share with a close companion and a friend is what we do not share with God. This is something we need to think about, because I can talk with a very close friend of mine and say, why is God doing this to me? That shows that that close friend of mine is closer to me than my God. Now, that's not any fault of ours. That's the way our mind have been conditioned to think of God, to think of Him as the other. But if we can understand that God sees every single thing about us, knows everything that goes on within us, as the Quran says at one place that we are closer to Him than His jugular vein, and we know what His soul whispers to Him. And at another place the Quran says God comes between a person and his own heart, or God comes between a person and his own intention or his own identity. So God is that proximate. He is inescapable, irresistible. You cannot run away from Him. Every single thing is known by Him. As Imam Hussein says in his Dua Arafah, that before I can articulate my thoughts, you already know my thoughts. You are that proximate to me. I only articulate them in order to understand what I want myself and what I feel myself. So if we can understand that God is that proximate, then the inner being that is hiding away from God or embarrassed from God in devotion needs to open up to this reality and to invite God within as the most proximate one, with full confidence that He has accepted me as I am. And He is still with me. He hasn't left my side. He is here for me, not against me. If we can understand that about God and find that intimacy, then we can begin to share with God. As we share with God, the person who is very private begins to see his self as he is. And that is the utmost requirement in devotion and the process of liberating ourselves, freeing the captive from within, and allowing the true light of the beloved to shine through and to emerge through us, to share with God our failures, our success, our disappointments, our fears, our heartaches, to share them with God, very, very unashamedly and very openly. What this does is, it gives us confidence with God, not the negative, arrogant confidence, but a true, deep, meaningful confidence that my God is there, everything is in the view of God. One of the things we normally encounter within our journeys from within is that, oh Lord, the last thing I want to do is to stand in front of you on the day of judgment and for your angels to say, you assumed you were hiding these things from God. You assumed that you were being watched by the people and you hid these things from the people, but you did not care less about God looking at you and watching you. I would rather say, no, I did all of what I did in full view of my God. He knew my weaknesses, He knew my strengths. He knew my moments of strength and He knew my moments of flaws. Everything was open to Him and I shared every single bit of myself with my God. What that does is, it gives us a friend who has accepted us for what we are, who is by our side, and who then encourages us to become better. Now think about this very carefully. As opposed to our worldly friends with whom we make excuses and then we default on the things that we said we will try to better. And they come back to us and they say to us that, well, look, you're not going to improve. God is the friend who says, no, I believe in you. I trust you. This time you will do it. And this is reflected so beautifully in the du'as of our imams, in which they say, oh Lord, every time I've made an excuse, you've accepted it. You have never been anything but encouraging to me. Now, if we want to understand this thing a bit more in depth, then God actually becomes our higher self. And we are tapping into our higher, more beautiful self. You see, it is only us who will not turn away from ourselves. We will never lose hope on us. We always say this, that I may lose hope, that I can't better myself, but my God is always hopeful. That God is that deep friend who is the higher self, with whom I am myself because I cannot be anything but myself. It is myself. So if we can understand this relationship as the relationship with the higher self, and that is God, the devotion becomes very, very meaningful, where even that being who reveres God is still hidden, can begin to open, can begin to reveal fully with full confidence. But the extent to which we go here is that we talk with God with a lot of confidence and openness. As, oh Allah, this decision of yours does not sit well with me. It's caused me a lot of grief and a lot of pain. God, I feel you abandoned me at this point. Why did you do that? To be that open with God. And at other points to say, oh Allah, I'm sorry, I don't trust you here. And you know I don't, I can't hide it from you. But that level of brutal honesty and transparency with God, this is very therapeutic. It helps the soul and it opens the soul. And once we begin to talk it, it starts to get remedied. And then the beautiful one, the majestic one, the beloved, begins to heal the soul from the depth. And he says, look, I've done this because of this. You will not understand it now. Trust me in this one. But he says it as a close companion. You have trusted me. You have given me that right that I can take this discretion in my discretion and decisions on your behalf. So now just trust me and bear with me, and it will all become clear. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.